Hello everybody. Today I'm going to talk about Sheldon AI platform, how we can use it to build model. It's a great tool which can help you do the POC pretty quickly, and also once your models are ready you can productionize them quite easily. So today I'm just going to tell you how you can sign up, how you can import the CSV file, how you can build a deep learning model, and you can evaluate it, you see it, and if you like it, and then you can use that for getting the predictions. So let's get started. First, let's sign up. So I'm going to do a quick sign up. So after filling in all the information, especially the email, we need to make sure that we agree to the terms and condition and sign up, and then we click on the login and just log in into the platform, and then you log in. And once you logged in, another step that is remaining is going to the subscription plans. You go to the subscription plan and start the free trial. So the free trial has started. Now we can go to the CSV section. Here we need to upload a CSV file. We'll click on the choose file. And then here's our data set, which is health insurance. CSV is a public data set that we're choosing for this demo. The delimiter for this one is a comma. And make sure that the header row is checked because we have header data in it. One thing you have to remember that your column name cannot be index or an ID. So once all that's set, click submit. Once the file is uploaded, you can see the sample data there, and detail about all these columns is here. You can take a look at that. It's the how many hours the wife has worked per week, whether the wife has health insurance through her husband or through her own job, or the husband has health insurance through his own job. All these factors which are mentioned in the data sets, all that detail is here. You can take a look at. You can pause the video, and if you really want to see, you can see that. Then the other thing that you can do on the screen is, if somehow you are not satisfied with the imported data type, you think whether this was an integer, then you can change it here. But in our case, it's as we can see, it's just a string. No, yes, no, right? So feel free to change it to whatever you think that you want it. One thing good about it is that if it is not able to convert that column into that data type, then it's going to resume back to what it originally was. So you're not going to get any error if you try to change it. So this really helps when you have like some kind of the date column, but when the file is imported, it shows an object. You can convert that to the date, and that takes care of that. Alrighty, then we'll click on submit. Here on this screen, you are going to see a lot of information, and all that information is very important when you are going to build model and you import a CSV file. Please take your time to really go through this information. I'm going to go over it very briefly in this demo. So it has column name, data types. This column ML state missing wise, it tells you like if a lot of data is missing, that you don't want to include that in your model. So here it says, oh, you can include that. So the yes means that yes, you can include that. And then it's a unique wise, so it's giving us the information whether we should be able to use that, given that how unique values are in our data set. So these are just a recommendation. It's not that you really have to follow all the recommendations provided in these two columns. you can choose up as per your own requirement, but these are just the guidelines. So in our case, we don't have any missing ones, so how many unique, so based on that it tells you, yeah, you can include it or not, right? So it gives you the frequency, the standard deviation if the numbers are numeric. Otherwise you're going to see the top 5 values. So please do take time in going through that information. Once that is passed, then you can check and decide, if you have a lot of missing values and you want to fill them by different means. So Sheldon AI provides you different methods, like you can put like a 0 number, or by the next value, or by the previous value, or you can do that by mean, and that works for the numeric columns. For the string columns, it's just the missing value text. Wherever there is a missing value, you're going to get that text in there, or you can fill it by the next value or the previous value. So it's all up to you, how you want to do it, and then just click submit. Here you have go to train models and select columns for the new models. As we're going to build the model for the first time for this data set, so that's where we're going to use the select column for the new model. So let's suppose if we already had trained model on the same data set, then we can go to the train model section, where we can select any trained model and retrain it if needed. But now for this demo, we're going to select columns for new model, which is going to give us all the columns which we selected for our data set. And on this screen we have an option to look at the stats again, and then we can also look at the histogram of each column. And if you think, yeah, that is the data that you need, that you just click on just check the column, and you just repeat this process for all the columns that you think you will be needing. So in our case, we are going to select all of them. You can take your time to look at each of those histogram charts and decide, but in our case, we're just gonna go with all the columns. Here on the screen, we have to do 2 things. One is select the label column. Label column is a column which we want our model to predict. So with this data set, we are going to train a model which is going to predict whether a wife has health insurance or not. So that's where we pick WHI column. And for all these other columns, we have to select the preprocessing type. And so for numeric, we'll just select num standardization. For this demo, let's just do that for all the numbers. And for all the text one, we're going to use a text hard encoding. If you look at it, we don't have a lot of distinct values, only 6, so that is a good fit. But let's suppose if we had a lot of distinct values, let's say, in thousands or so, that's where we can use one of these 100 dim reduction for many distinct value, or 300 dim reduction for many distinct value type of preprocessing. But in our case, we're just going to use num standardization for the numeric columns and text one hard encoding for all the text one. And that also includes WHI column, which is our label column. And if you look at it, it only has 2 distinct values, yes or no, and that's what we are what we want our model to predict. So after making the selection, click submit. It's on the screen. You're just going to see the summary of what you've done. And here you can select the range of your data set. Let's say if your data set is pretty big and you just want to train your model on you know, the first few thousand rows, that's where you can specify that. But in our case, we're just going to select everything as default. And the next thing we need to do is get input into the output dimension of our data set. What this does is it looks at the preprocessing type, whatever you have selected, and based on that, it gives you the dimension of your data set. You know, what will be the output dimension that you should use for the neural network model, and what should be your input dimension that you should be using for the first layer of your neural network model. Data set name is an optional thing, but let's just put in HI, health insurance. Then you go to the model section. Here we're going to create a new model, as we don't already have an existing model. So click on create new model. Here we have different options of feed-forward neural network, convolutional neural network, and recurrent neural network. For this demo, we're just going to use feed-forward neural network. And then fully connected, so that's the first layer that we're going to use. And I'm going to name our model HI model 01. And input dimension is already populated, 25, and then the hidden one, the next layer of our neural network, I'm going to put 100. And I'm going to leave everything as default and create another layer, as we want to build deep neural network model. That's where we're going to include multiple layers in our model. So let's put 200 in there. The next one, reduce that to 50, and then the next one, which is going to be our last, we're going to put 2. As you can see, the output dimension is 2, so we have to put 2 in there in our last layer. Another thing that we need to do in our last layer, if we're doing classification, if we're dealing with a classification problem, is select softmax as an activation function. Then we need to select the lost and the optimizer function. You click on it, first select this loss function. So in a classification problem, you are going to use categorical cross entropy. Optimizer SGD is good enough. Leave everything as default, just validate your model, and it's going to give you the preliminary validation message, and also tells you how many parameters your model has. Once you're satisfied with all that, you click submit. This is our training configuration screen, in which we are going to set up different kind of configuration before we actually start the training. The first one is set the number of epochs for our training. I'm going to set it to 100. The bias, we can leave that as default. The in-memory limit is 100,000, as our data set is only like 30,000 rows, so this is good enough. You can read about all about these settings in these dialog boxes. You know, it gives all the detail how you can actually configure those. So I'm going to leave everything as default. Early stopping, I'm going to set to 5, and then all I need to do is just press start training, and The training will now kick off. Once the training will start, if you have provided an email address, then you will get an email. If you have not, then the next thing that you can do is go to the job section, click on training jobs, and here you can see that our job is running and it started. Now we can look at the log of our training. You can go through that in detail once you start it. It gives you the architecture of your model. It gives you information, what kind of preprocessing and the column that you've selected. And if once the training is going on, you can manually refresh your browser to see how far it has gone. So once the training is finished, you can look at the log and see how the training progressed. And I'm just gonna go down at the end to show you what was our final accuracy of the model. The validation accuracy was 79% with a loss of 0.4, and the training accuracy is 79.625%. And here's the confusion metrics, 2344 and 1193. So which seems okay. So precision is about 82% no, and yes is 75%. And that's it. Thank you for watching.